Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's take a look at some stocks on the move today in Europe. I'm Stephen Carroll and I'm joined by Bloomberg's breaking news editor Louise Moon. Louise, good morning. Let's start in Italy with Mediobanca, shares rising this morning. Why?
That's after their board has essentially approved plans to delist. So they're going to delist the investment bank. That's after it was acquired last year for 17 billion euros by Monte Paschi. So that created Italy's third largest lender by assets. And now this is the next step. So it's being fully integrated. So both banks coming together. So as you say, Mediobanca shares rose. They were up about 9% in Milan this morning. Analysts are essentially saying, this next step should help both of the banks maximise their potential. So the focus now is how they're going to execute on that merger, how they're going to deliver on cost savings that were promised as part of that merger. So, investors taking it well as this next step happens to delist Mediobanca.
So that's Mediobanca. Let's go to Bayer next. The German chemicals company is we're seeing their shares this morning lower after some news around settlements. This is to do with the lawsuits over Roundup, weedkiller.
Yeah, indeed. So they've agreed to pay more than $7 billion as part of this. This is them trying to resolve, as you say, these cases over the weed killer that is to do with it being linked to cancer. So this is both current and future lawsuits. So they're trying to resolve this. So $7 billion, assessment plan. Moving on, it's been really hitting the company for years. It's been something that's been going along for years and really been hitting Bayer. So paying this, and as you say, shares fell today. They fell about 7%. They had actually risen by a similar amount yesterday afternoon after this news, but then as I say, falling this morning. One comment was saying that it is likely the best possible outcome, but it's not necessarily the breakthrough that investors had hoped for. So maybe that explains the change in that share price reaction. And there's also the kind of added challenge around this, and as this all settles in, one, limiting the financial burden on the company, but also making the compensation good enough, essentially, to prevent more or renewed litigation going forward. So a bit of a mixed picture there, but settling that for Bayer.
Yeah, of course, this is one that has been a long-running story for that company, so one to think about this morning. We're going to turn next to Raspberry Pi, the computer maker. Shares have risen sharply and been halted at some stages for volatility this morning, Louise. What's going on?
Yeah, a really interesting one. Apologies. A really interesting one. Today, 33% Raspberry Pi. Yesterday, they had their best one-day performance since 2024 IPO, since they listed in 2024. They're up about 90% in the week. So they've now got a valuation of about £1 billion. And the trigger around this is a social media post. So it's saying that some AI agents could drive demand for the type of computers that Raspberry Pi makes. So they're seeing Raspberry Pi as the kind of ideal hardware platform for these AI agents. So causing the stock to soar. This is happening, as I say, through the whole week. There's also a bit at play here of short sellers closing their negative bets. Also, as a result of this, it had been one of the most shorted stocks in Europe, so they're closing those negative bets. And there was a note from Jeffrey saying, that all this chatter on social media could support further upside. So we're keeping an eye to see if these gains will continue, but quite a remarkable week so far for Raspberry Pi.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.